A few days before his death, he spoke to a congregation of rabbis in New York State and was introduced by his friend, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. Rabbi Heschel gave a radical introduction of Dr. King and said, among other things, the impact and the influence of Dr. King will determine the future of our nation. The future of our nation is dependent upon the impact and influence of Dr. King. He, said Rabbi Heschel, is a voice, a vision, and a way. In order for that voice, vision, way, impact, and influence to carry us in the future, we must place nonviolence at the center of our lives and our communities. Nonviolence is not necessarily safe, but it is saving. Yes. Nonviolence will not keep you from getting killed, but it will keep you from being a killer. Nonviolence will not keep you from being hated, but it will keep you from being a hater. It will not keep you from being murdered, but it will keep you from being a murderer. Otis, very beloved son, passed off. Dr. Moss, the journey, the pathway, the highway to the beloved community is not a quick flight on an express elevator. It is a troubling stairway, a difficult and struggling stairway, not a crystal stair, but the rough side of the mountain. Can you say something about the struggling stairway? Is Dr. Carol Baltimore, president of the Progressive National Baptist Convention, who tells the story. Going to the Washington Monument Pomp and standing in a 2-hour line waiting to visit the top of the monument. Not wanting to wait, he inquired at the information booth, "Is there another line with a shorter wait?" The reply was, "Yes, you can take the stairs and there is no white wait. Everyone in your line is waiting to take the elevator. They want someone else to take them to the top. You are welcome to use your own power and strength to reach your destination. Taking the stairway to freedom requires physical engagement, mental fitness, and spiritual vision. The stairway to freedom demands sweat equity, physical sacrifice, and ethical footing. The benefits to the body and spirit are greater than taking or creating an elevator movement or an elevator revolution. Elevators by design bequeath your power to a person, entity, or corporate interest. If the owner of the elevator decides to keep you from your goal, you'll be stuck between floors, depending upon someone else to free you from your own inaction. Daring to take the stairs puts you in a position of active leadership, engagement, and allows you to be the architect of your own destiny. Stairs improve your mobility, flexibility, and strength. The elevator puts you at the mercy of someone else. Stairs build character, improve posture, and engage all your muscles and burn excess fat and calories. In other words, What you started out with that weighed you down will not be with you when you make it to the top. The challenge we face is not being tempted by an elevator movement or seduced by an elevator revolution. Can you not see our ancestors climbing? They did not take an elevator. 1619 men and women kissed by nature's son, only considered 3/5 of a human being, defined racialized men, stepped up to another level. There's Eric Tubman, and she stepped, taking 300 north to freedom. Can you see Sojourner Truth taking a step, saying, "Hey, a woman"? Can you see Frederick Douglass taking a step, forcing Abraham Lincoln into glory? Can you see Booker T. Washington taking a step? There is still an institution known as Tuskegee graduating people today. W.E.B. Du Bois was taking a step with his intellectual genius, talking about the souls of black folk. Marcus Garvey took a step, saying one God, one aim, and one destiny. A. Philip Randolph took a step, organizing Pullman Porters. Bayard Rustin took a step with his creative genius. Freedom Riders stepping, Snitch stepping, Ford stepping, SCLC stepping, and the March on Washington in 1963 on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial was created by a generation of people who made the decision to keep on stepping, to step into a new level, into a new generation, and new possibilities. But Pop, I've got to tell you something that I love about steps. You see, all steps, all stairs have landings. You see, the architect has created in such a way that you need a landing to give you rest, renewal, reflection, and recalibration. Because when there is a landing, the steps go in one direction but turn at a 90-degree angle to go in a different direction. In other words, one flight goes in one direction, but another generation goes in a different direction, but we're all going to the same destination. The landing is designed to allow a person to look back from where you've been to know where you are going, to allow you to move forward. And I can see that there was a previous generation, Pop, you were a part of. You took the flight to take out segregation, but this generation at the landing must move in a different direction to stop mass incarceration. One generation knew about Brown versus Board of Education, but this generation must deal with equal funding for all schools. One generation was searching for common ground, but this generation must stop stand your ground. One generation the right to vote, another generation stops voter suppression. One generation was dealing with sharecropper plantations, but this generation must deal with prison plantations. We have reached a landing today. We have not reached the goal, but the question is, what is the responsibility of the Moses generation and the Joshua generation when we reach the landing together?
Southern Christian Leadership Conference appointed by Dr. King. 50 years later, you are here. Your son is here. 3 generations standing together. However, I am moved by something you shared with me that fits this context. Not so long ago, visiting Switzerland, you made a visit in Zurich to a special chapel high on a hill. And in order to get there, you had to negotiate a long flight of steps. And you told me you noticed a grandfather and his children and grandchildren, going up the steps together. And after a while, they reached a special landing. And the grandfather stopped with a pleasant smile and full of encouragement and said to the children, "This is as far as I can go. But you go on." 50 years ago, some reached the landing as far as they could go. And this morning, I'm on the way. But you, your children, and your children's children must go on. And around you will be a great cloud of witnesses. And we bequeath to you a legacy of struggle. 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 Struggle.
There is one element that you forgot to share in that story. That as the grandfather released his children and his grandchildren, there was a small grandchild of about 5 years old, made his way up the stairs. But he turned and looked back at his grandfather because he knew that he would not have been where he is at that moment if it hadn't been someone who carried him to the land. And so I say this day, it is the height of arrogance for one generation to never look back. It is eternal foolishness for the previous generation to always look back and turn the movement into a museum. This is nothing but a landing, my friends. We have not reached it because of the crystal stair, but it's had tax in it and boards taken out and times we've been climbing in the dark. We've made gains since 1619. We have made progress since 1963, but we have not yet reached there. We're just at a landing. And when you leave here today and you see that the Washington Monument still has a scaffold upon it, just as there is still a scaffold upon our nation, our democracy is still being formed and fashioned, and the steps of tomorrow have yet to be constructed. Each generation must go higher and higher. Take the steps, beloved, and one day we will reach the top. And that day we will have the right to join hands together and say, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. But until that day, keep on stepping.